I would like to call the meeting to order for the Bryan Board of Public Affairs, February 4th, 2025 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John, would you please do roll call?
I will. Annette Schreiner,
Here.
Bob Eyre,
Yes.
Jim Salsbury,
Yes.
Dick Long,
Present.
and Karen Ford.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the January 21st, 2025 minutes. Board, you've all been presented with the minutes. Can I have a motion? Are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Dick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Karen.
Yes.
It was a tie.
Next on the agenda is a hearing of public concerns. Anyone would like to come to the podium? Seeing none. Next on the agenda is the Clerk-Treasurer's Report. John?
Yeah, thanks. So you remember from the last meeting, we normally have this scheduled for the second meeting of the month, which would have been last meeting for the month of December. And I forgot to bring the packet that's been passed around to you. So part of the financials were in last month's packet. The part that I bring to the meeting is with you tonight. But as usual, so it's December 31st, the end of the year is what you're looking at. And I don't have anything to add other than if you have any questions for me or tonight or anytime, you can always call me on that topic. So that's all I have.
May I entertain a motion to approve the Clerk-Treasurer's Report for December 31st, 2024?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Bob?
Yes.
Annette?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
And Karen?
Yes. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution. John, would you please number and read?
Resolution number 3, 2025, authorizing change order number 1 and final for the South Lynn Street Waterline Replacement Project.
Derek?
So the South Lynn Street Waterline Project was completed back in December. And just as a refresher, this project was bid by the Williams County Commissioners, and that was because of the Community Development Block Grant funds that were awarded for that project. That grant was $265,000. And we were also able to utilize $275,000 in grants from Ohio Public Works Commission. This project was awarded to Salsbury Trucking and Excavating in the amount of $797,151. And this change order reflects a reduction in cost of $22,926. And that was for miscellaneous parts and supplies that were not needed for the project. The final project cost is $774,225. BMU's portion of that being $234,225. Respectfully request that you approve the final change order for the South Lynn Street Waterline Project.
Have we received all the funds that we were due
That's in the process,
still?
yes.
Okay. I wonder if, in the future, if we have like a change order, or maybe we could create another report that shows the grants that were applied to the project for forthcoming, or the date that they are awarded, so we have something that shows, you know, that we don't pull this out a couple of years from now and see that we, the utilities, spent $774. We had some deductions due to grants or something like that. That would be a nice update to see what our final cost out of pocket was. I mean, the grants are great.
Right.
Just so fortunate to have them. Or we couldn't probably do this kind of a project without
We can do that, Karen.
assessing the city. residents.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Okay.
Second?
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Annette?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Karen.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is another resolution. John, would you please number and read?
Resolution number 4, 2025, to authorize the advertisement for bids for the Waterline Replacement Project, East Mulberry Street, 700 to 900 blocks.
So this capital improvement project aims to replace 1,520 feet of aging 4-inch cast iron water main, 3 fire hydrants, and 39 water services in the 700 to 900 blocks of East Mulberry. In 2024, both the board and council have passed resolutions authorizing the mayor to submit grant applications to Ohio Public Works. We are anticipating receiving $275,000 in grant funds for this project. And also because of the obligations of the grant funding, City Council will need to authorize the mayor to bid this project as well. This project won't be awarded until after July 1, when the grant agreement is executed. This project is in the 2025 water capital budget, and we'll keep the board up to date on bid dates and advertising dates. So I do respectfully request authorization to bid the East Mulberry Street Waterline project.
Questions, comments? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Annette?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And Jim.
Yes.
Okay. Next on our agenda, we are going to see the 2024 electric department in review. Presenting will be Derek, Al, and Jim.
Yeah, go ahead and start off the electric department with a brief financial overview, and then Al and Jim will talk about their capital projects from last year. Just talk a little bit about power supply. For 2024, the city of Bryan used a total of 174,479 megawatts of energy. That was 5.8% below the forecast, but it was only a 1.6% decrease from 2023. Much of the lower load has been attributed to mild winter temperatures. Prairie State Energy Campus, our percentage power that we received from there was down 1.7% to 27.8. We were up from the Fremont Energy Center to 20.7%. And our own BMU energy sources, being the solar field and Audley's, were up to 6.7%. Many of the AMP hydro facilities, as you'll see in a little bit too, did perform below forecast, and that was because of the low water levels throughout the year. The total renewable energy resources is 21.1%. And then you can see from the pie chart there, all the different projects and the percentages. Power supply cost, 2024 wholesale power supply costs were $45.79 a megawatt hour, which was up 7.7%. A couple reasons for that is the market prices for the sale of excess energy were lower than budgeted. So that added about $3.50 a megawatt hour to the rate. As I mentioned, the hydro facilities had lower production, so that resulted in about a 50 cents a megawatt hour increase to the rate. We were able to sell our own RECs. We got about $270,000 in revenue for those. And then from the graph there at the right, you can see for 2024, our annual power supply cost was $53.79 a megawatt hour. One thing to note too is that throughout the year, and even last year too, is that because of the power cost adjustment, our customers had seen a benefit or a credit back to them for well over a year now. Just taking a look at the electric utilities overall, O&M expenses, as it is every year, power supply is the single greatest expense at about 74%. It's about $10.6 million. The distribution system, which is Al's department and Jim's departments as well, that's about 16% or about $2.2 million. And then the customer service, administration, billing, and accounting makes up the balance. Just looking at the overall financials for the 501 fund, that's the O&M fund. We started the year at $12.2 million. We had budgeted revenues at $21 million, and year-end revenues were $19.4 million. Again, you can kind of go back to the power cost adjustment there and the power supply cost being lower as to why our revenues didn't hit what we had budgeted for. On the expenses, $19.2 million were budgeted. Year-end actuals were $15 million in expenses. Left us with a margin of about $4.3 million. The electric department does have debt service for the AMI system, and that's principal payment only of about $92,000. And then we did budget for a capital transfer of $300,000, which we completed near the end of 2024. Left us with an ending fund balance at $16.2 million. In the 515, the capital fund started the year at $4.7 million. Again, we had budgeted the $300,000 transfer. Much like the water and communications department, you do see an extra $2,300 in there, and that was from the sale of some fixed assets to the gut deals. On the expenses, we had budgeted expenses at $1.6 million, and we ended the year at $2.3. The big drivers on that is materials and equipment that had been on order in previous budget years and have finally come in this year. The digger derrick truck being one, the directional boring machine being one, so that's a large driver of why the expenses were higher than budgeted. And then we ended the year with a fund balance of $2.6 million in the capital fund. And when you look at the two funds combined, we started the year at $17 million, and we ended the year at about $18.9 million, or an increase of 1.9. Just taking a quick look at total cash comparison for the last 3 years. Again, $18.9 million is where we ended 2024. Just looking at sales by rate class. Our largest rate class is the large power. Makes up about 55% of our sales. It's about 92 million kilowatt hours, and that's across 54 accounts. The residential class makes up about 28% of our sales, about 46 million kilowatt hours. And then the commercial, 13%, and then free service makes up 4% of the sales. Just another way to look at the electric sales by class. Excuse me. Again, about $5.4 million in sales from the residential, 2.7 from the commercial, and just over $9 million from the industrial. Just looking at total kilowatts year over year. As I mentioned earlier, 2024 we were down about 1.6%, or 167 million kilowatt hours. And just from some of the conversations we've had with some of the other public power communities in camp, like most of us see the same trend. Most of us aren't seeing low growth. There are some places that are, but this is the common thing here. Just a review and financial plan. Salsbury and Associates had completed a cost of service study several years ago. The last rate increase went into effect in November of 2023. We do not have any other approved rate increases. Last summer, we did reevaluate our expenses with Salsbury and Associates, just to kind of look and see where we were from where we thought we would be. And then just looking forward, looking at a cost of service study probably in 2026. As always, monitor our finances closely and adjust as necessary. Renewable energy sources, the board has set the goal of 25%. And as I showed, I think on the first slide, we were at about 21.1, but we're continuing to evaluate some renewable sources. And then peak demand. As you'll see when Jim does his slides, just to continue to educate and spread that around the community, because the savings are quite significant. And just a quick recap of the Good Neighbors Fund. We talked about this a couple times over the past few months, but we ended 2024 with a little over $11,000 in donations. We had a little bit of a donation drive. Great response from the community, so we want to thank them. And then the fund was also able to assist 29 families in 2024, 989 total families since the fund was created in 2005. Now, any questions, I will turn it over to Al and we can talk about the distribution.
Hadn't we hit the 25% of the renewables at one point in the years past?
We were.
I know that was what we always shot for, but.
I think we had landfill gas, and then we also had the Blue Creek wind. And those agreements have fallen off.
I think we were at 24.1,
We were right
Yeah.
there.
and then once we lost that,
Yeah, we've had that as a target for a long time.
Yeah. We'll continue to evaluate that and get that back to the 25%.
Yeah, thank you.
Electric distribution this year, 2024, broken down. First off is our underground project. We had service replacements, 406 Oakwood Court. We had a bad underground under a driveway, which caused us to have to do some trenching and stuff. Didn't want to have to pour somebody's drive, so we were able to do it cheaper by rerouting it around. So took care of that problem that we had out there. We had a three-phase service, 208 service for Lynn St images down here on South Union. We pulled in a three-phase service for the power plant external feed just south of the power plant there from the distribution circuit that would provide house power when we lost the 34.5 due to the work that we're doing there. When we took that 34.5 out, that transformer fed house power into the power plant. This gave us an external feed for that when we were doing the work. We replaced a 300 kVA transformer at TGM. We sent that in for repair. We provided a service on Cherry Street for a Habitat for Humanity home and a permanent and temporary service. We had a three-phase power cable repair in Union Place subdivision. It's pretty significant. And then we had a service upgrade in the 200 block of South Main, the underground, part of the downtown beautification there as well. Overhead underground services in the 200 block of South Main, that was what I just said. But we were, that was for a bolt-in meter base also that we had out there. We wanted to, that was part of that project to upgrade that. Eastland Woods primary URD replacement. That was about, I think, 200 feet of primary we replaced out there in Eastland Woods. And we installed an underground service at 121 Meadow Lane in Buena Vista. We upgraded Frankie's electrical service along with the customer providing the outside disconnect, and we upgraded our metering there. And then we installed a URD service out on County Road E25 east of town. Overhead services, most of our gear was spent down here in the alley. If you remember, we purchased all the materials for the 69 ductile iron pole line from Edgerton Street down to the power plant. Most of our gear, like as I said, was spent down there getting that line built and getting things transferred. Along with that, we did a little bit of distribution circuit rerouting. We've got Ohio Arts West feed onto the Cherry Street substation circuit instead of coming all the way from Curtin. Kind of rerouted some stuff there to improve that voltage and stuff for Ohio Art. We also installed a overhead switch pole just outside of that metering point there, Ohio Art off the Garden Street feed. We also installed a overhead switch at 613 East Street, and we had numerous overhead underground service conversions on it as well. I don't have an exact number, but I know there was multiple ones. We changed out the primary metering set over here at Bryan Plastic Processing. Replaced a couple poles in Bryan Community Apartments along with some street lighting, or not street lighting, security lighting. We had some pole replacements in Lynn St, upgraded Four Seasons metering, and replaced some poles on West Edgerton Street. And then upgraded the metering and changed the transformer location for community health services on South Main. And also we built on the south side of the power plant down East Maple, we had a 69 kV build that goes to Cherry Street, which would be south of the plant, converting that 34.5 from the plant to Cherry Street, making that 69. And we did finalize, get that one built. We're just finalizing the connections right now. In the next couple of weeks, we're waiting for some better weather. Doc's Diesel on Brunicardie Way, we had a pole replacement and a temp service for that, preparing for the permanent service, which is coming. We've got a transformer on order for that. Lighting project, we replaced 14 lights in the 100 block in North Main Street, which we updated the old mold cast 1979, 1980 lights to match the downtown historical acorn fixtures. And we reworked the lighting at Amtrak on Page Street, on South Portland Street. If you remember the year prior, we had some conduit installed. We went ahead and installed the conductors and set the poles and the fixtures on South Portland Street, down by the Senior Center South, down that way. We had some AEL blue-violet fixtures that came about in the Eagles parking lot in Johnson Way. The manufacturer gave us the internal workings of that fixture. We had to replace that and fix that we had a project. And it was 5 years of the warranty on those lights, and it was right at the 5 years. We did get the materials for free, but we did have to provide the labor to replace them. And we also purchased 25 light poles and fixtures for the street lights out in East Village and Union Place that were put in the 90s. We just got some replacements there, and we're coming up and developing a plan to tackle that one, see what the changes. Unbilled service projects, the AMI, unbilled services, meter change outs for the AMI. We replaced some of those meters. Excuse me. Removed an old sign and installed the sign for the Parks Department on Buffalo Road Community Center. Of course, every year our Christmas lights. We've cut some trees with the street department. Assisted city engineering with Mulberry and Main traffic signal. Placed temp boards for the spring fling on the square. Day in the Park, power feed, Flare on the Square power feed, the Rec Park 4 renovation, some underground conduits for some secondary on some concrete they were pouring. We assisted them with that. In the fall, we had the Oktoberfest, and we have the Lions Club Tip Board, feeds or services that we provide every year. Miscellaneous projects, we had some mutual aid in Tallahassee, Florida, Newberry, South Carolina, and Lincoln, Florida. We provided assistance for hurricane relief in those areas. We had Asplin Tree in to do our distribution and Vargas Corridor line clearance tree trimming. Our AMI Yukon system, we implemented with the clerk's office to do the disconnects and after hours reconnects with the system, and it's working out really well. Lawrence Substation, scope and estimate for replacement of our transformers there. That was multiple conversations we've had with engineers and coming up with a scope of that. It ended up being that we didn't get the grant we applied for, the GRIP grant, but we are going to look at that moving forward with our electric system study as well coming this year. But that's a project that's probably within the next 10 years, I would guess. We purchased a zero-turn mower with the power plant to take care of any of our acreage that we have around here and out at the solar field and power plant, making sure that we use that mower to do that ourselves. We continue with our three-phase meter change-outs. We secured an architect for the new electric warehouse. And we provided scoping for the electric system study for 2025 for estimate. To do that project this year, we went with a couple, 3 engineering firms that we typically deal with to get those costs. It's a 10-year planning, Art Flash. There's some other stuff, short circuit, things like that. Fuse coordination study that we've done in 2015. This will be a 10 years before or after that study, so we keep that on a 10-year rotation. This will plan out the next 10 years of what capital projects we're going to need as a utility and as an electric department. Let's see, we purchased a 2024 Chevy 4x4 for the electric department, and we had a school presentation with a couple of linemen that were on the mutual aid to Florida. Assisted other departments in their projects, assisted the securement of a new time system with just attending some meetings and things like that and giving feedback on the different time systems that we were looking at. We assisted the water treatment with wells 3, 4, and 5 on their power needs and generation. Well 7 as well, generation was installed, and we provided some engineering and consulting and construction on that, along with the power plant as well. We worked on that project with them. Assisted in demolition of the power plant structures and assembly of the new structures for the substation there that we were working on. Assisted the communications fiber optic cable installation from the head end down Edgerton Street to the alley we rebuilt to the power plant for all our SCADA needs. And assisted the street department with the annual Sayre Street removals. Last year was quite a bit of training that we wanted to provide. We worked together with a lot of departments, both city and BMU, to provide training for our employees. We had forklift training. We attended a quarterly training every quarter with Jim Everly. That's more of a lineman, line work type training every quarter. We attended a safety meeting every month with Steve Malchler from AMP. We had training and disbursement of the APPA safety manual, 17th edition, to all employees. We kind of organized and coordinated with BMU and City Department some excavation competent person training. We had Dana Buckles come in and provide that training for us. He was someone that we had training probably 25 years ago here, and he was still doing it. We had him come in. Tyson was on board. He was in the training years ago when I was there, and we want to provide that for all the employees that haven't been through something like that. So that was a good training to have. It's concerning excavations and trench shoring and things like that. Very important in what we do. Confined space training, we organized and coordinated that with Doug Poole, and also Cleveland State had a professor come down and also taught that class with Doug. That was successful, and that was many of the BMU and city departments were involved in that as well. We purchased a new FLIR infrared camera. We had some training on that. We received truck one, as Derek said, which is a 2024 Terex Digger Derek, which we purchased in August of 2021. We finally received that, and we did have in-service training with our employees that operate that this last summer. We received a directional boring machine, and we had one session of training on that, and we're awaiting some better weather to continue with that and moving forward with our underground projects that we want to do with that. We started several linemen in the Department of Labor apprenticeship program, so they're able to receive a line maintainer card that, of course, it's a thing where you're training your employees to make them the best they can be. And we have some guys that wanted to go through that extra step, which is a lot to log all their work that they do on a day-to-day basis and what they do to get that card. So that was something that through AMP they offered, and we have three guys wanting to take advantage of it. Noah Lando attended the Basic 2 line school through AMP. That's his second year, and we implemented a digital tailgate meeting brief document to record all of our tailgate meetings that we have on a daily basis for projects that we work on, which is in the APPA safety manual. Is something that we're required to do now. Log those tailgate meetings that we have to document. 2025 projects, of course I mentioned the system study. We need to get out with Deerfield and Carson Drive, R2 underground, and of course we have our electric warehouse expansion that we would like to get going here soon, going out for bids and that. So that's something that we'll probably be bringing to the board shortly. Is a request to also bid for that electric warehouse. So, any questions?
Where are we at with our AMI as far as complete?
The numbers? I don't know the exact numbers, but electrically we're really good. We've got a few of the three-phase large power meters that Jay's working on with Kieran. Do their meter maintenance and stuff. They want to limit that to about 10, just because of what it takes to do all the paperwork and stuff, or the time of use and things like that. Then the water's working diligently to get their side done. But we're using the electric side to read the meters, do any non-pay disconnects, any type of stuff. We're using the system, it's working really well for us.
Good, thanks, Al.
You know?
I assume everything that goes into, all the power lines that go in the ground now are still in conduit?
Yes.
Are they?
Yeah.
Have you noticed any improvement in the reliability over the years since we started doing that?
I think so.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it gives us we haven't seen failures, inside conduits, and I hope I don't in my lifetime here. I mean, but, it surely improves, anything that was direct bury in the ground that was
Yeah.
put in with
I bet it did.
the concentric exposed
Mhm.
neutrals and stuff that like they put in the late 60s, early
Mhm.
70s.
I remember.
Where we were finding most of our cable failures.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good practice.
Not to mention, if it does go bad, it's probably easier to fix.
Yeah, you don't tear.
Or
up the
replace, I
backyard.
should say, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully somebody maybe 50 years from now appreciates it.
Then why are we needing to do Carson Drive underground?
Carson Drive.
Just curiosity,
It's as we said, with the years of that the cable's been in service,
Yeah.
it's getting to that 50-year mark, 40, 50-year mark to replace that
On Carson?
cable. Mhm. Maybe Conan Street, Carson Drive area, and that
Yeah.
area there.
Yeah.
There's
50
a couple
years?
back feeds. I'd say 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just built all those houses 20 years ago.
That's been in there since I've been here, and I've been here 31 years, and I know it's been probably all that stuff that was put in there. I'd say it was put in the 80s. I don't know.
It's been a
I
while
just-
since, and I
that was
know
my
I
backyard.
put quite a bit of it in. I helped put quite a bit of it in, yeah.
That went in
Probably.
before the houses were built?
Yeah.
Is that what it
Yeah.
was?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
just because the
that's-
houses were built, and that doesn't mean that the utility wasn't put in.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
where
it
my
was put
question
in
came from.
probably
Yeah, a lot of the primary was put in, even the transformers were set well before they even started building houses. To west of you.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, I know, because it's set vacant for quite a while, so.
I just
Yeah,
looked
they
at
didn't-
someone's house on Conan Street and it was built in 1987, so
Yeah.
life's
Yeah.
passing you by, Karen. Just like all of us.
Right. And the utility was there before that house was probably built.
Yeah.
I just wondered, one of my
No.
neighbors used to work here too.
Yeah.
Remember when his house was built?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Al.
Al.
Yeah.
Evening, everyone. Power plant and Audley's hydro plant review. We'll just start out with the peak shaving real quick. The capacity peak shaving is June 1st through September the 30th. This happens Monday through Friday. It became much more significant after the PJM auction this year. The kilowatt per month was 90 cents for a year or so there, and now it's jumped up to $8.21 for a kilowatt month. So it really changed the whole outlook of what the summer capacity cost would be. This year, they're anticipating close to 4 million, 3.7 for that. The hydro plant, even though we had a very dry fall, which helped our solar because we had a lot of sunshine, we just kept everything off down there until there was a peak time. And then we would turn it on like 10 minutes before the 2-hour mark, the span that we would run. And then as soon as it hit 6 o'clock or 6:30, when it was dropping off, turn everything off, and then hopefully for the next day. And then the solar field helped us out with being a little bit more there. So the capacity came in at 4.1. That's going to become effective June 1st. Transmission side, everyone here probably is aware, but November 1st to October 31st, it was established last year in January 17th at 9 a.m. We operated at the 43,000 kilowatts of a savings of just under 6 million. The hydro plant, once again, we kind of did it the same way, but it kind of helps in the wintertime because no one cares how high the river is. So I don't get my phone ringing, which I do usually in August and September, and I'll tell them it'll go up as soon as it rains. So, but in this wintertime, even if there's ice on it, the ice can stay there and we'll drop it 3 or 4 feet below the ice. And so that really helps in being able to generate. The trouble with that is that the solar field needs sun. And if it's cloudy and dark, which it typically is before 9 a.m., we don't get a lot of help out of that. So we were able to come up there with the 6.2, total capacity is 4.1, so that gave us a little savings of just over 10 million, which makes it kind of significant in the future. Once again, it seems like that in the wintertime, the cold is going further south than it used to, which is affecting us at least for the last 2 or 3 years. From 2022 till now, it seems like it just keeps getting a little lower there. The hydro plant, Derek mentioned about some of the rec cells, but we generated 5,700 megawatt hours, and we were able to actual sales of last year, 196,000 in the solar field, 22 megawatt hours, and we got that to 73,000. So not nothing to laugh about or anything, but 270,000 is a pretty good deal doing that work. Real quick, I guess this is a good shot of the work that we did, some of the project work, and it may be a little bit better, but right now we had to get a crane in order to get in front of the dam to fix the concrete. I had them bring out the longest aerial lift they had and park it over there by the floodgates. And once you get past a certain degree down, it automatically comes in and won't stay out at 100 feet, even though there's only one guy in it. So we kind of scrapped that idea, and I got a hold of a crane company, and we had to hang a guy out there in order to repair those. All-base generation, there's the last 4 years. 2021 seemed to be a wet fall, but it seems like the rest are all just following the pattern they normally follow. The solar generation, it's being consistent, so not a lot to say about that. Here's where we've been upgrading. The transformer that got changed was the 34.5 to 4K, now it's 69 to 4K. If you happened to pass during the day, that was pretty impressive, is when the guy took the old one out, he took it completely over the structure and then set the new one there, and I'm watching that $1 million way up there going, please don't drop it. But crane operators obviously are really good. We were not able to secure a crane when the assembly crew showed up. They kept putting it off, and I'm like, I have a Broderson that we used to assemble some of the structure with. Will that work at lifting up the coils and the fans and everything else? And they were like, sure. So my crew stayed over, and we got it assembled so that we could not get any kind of overcharge from the assembly crew being here longer from Pennsylvania Transformer. And that's what you see on the left right there. There's a close-up of some of the repair we did with ART, Advanced Rehabilitation, from out here. What we did was we would power wash it and then fill in all the cracks with the closed cell foam that they have, and then spray that coating over it. It has really worked well on the front of the dam, so I thought, why not try it here? And it's just a way of maybe making it last longer because we've actually sealed it up. So those are the spots that was bad, and also part of our Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that do their inspections. That was one of the things they pointed out that they wanted repaired. So when they show back up here in a year or two, they do physical visits every 3 years, FERC does, from the Chicago office. Projects that are coming up, the power plant substation upgrade completion. As Al said, we've got a couple little loose ends that the engineers didn't get quite figured out. So once we get those wires put in, we just got the details today for that. Then we can power up the Cherry Street 69 feet to the plant, and then Al's group will phase that out, and then we'll hook that in. So that's gonna be there. We still got the containment that needs to go around the transformers, but the stone is froze right now, have the material. The company also sends those people up once it's time to install, so that it's installed according to, so that everything's sealed and everybody's happy that way. And then once that's done, because we kind of got to use the back truck, because every time that we have dug at the power plant, we found something buried. So now that we're in the final stations, I'm going to use the back truck for this and for the fence post, so that we don't dig through a conduit, or in one case, a wooden conduit. So that was kind of interesting to find. And then once the fence is up, then the gate can be open a little longer, as the active substation will be around its own fence at that point. The RTAC units, these are the RTU units, the real-time units that are at each substation, so we can get feedback information from each substation. We've been upgrading those, so we're looking to continue upgrading, and we pretty much got the power plant and Lawrence sub to do here locally, and then the Auglaize plant. The fire systems at GT1 and GT2, the material that's in them is no longer available, no longer serviceable, and so we have to work at getting something there differently. Auglaize number 2 generator bearing and slip ring. The slip ring, some insulation material come off of one of the posts, and that caused that when the brush got close to it, it made it start arcing, which made then the slip ring arc. So we got that off, we got that repaired, and we dropped the Babbitt bearing in there to reseal the housing that's around it. The Babbitt material needs to be redone, so I got to get that to Cincinnati Babbitt here this week, and they'll start working on it, because they're out 6 to 8 weeks redoing stuff. And then, of course, doing some more ART concrete restoration down at the Auglaize. Al also talked about the modeling that we're looking at for what kind of projects we're going to do in the next 10 years. One of the subjects that I brought up to the engineers, since they have the opportunity to look at more communities than just what we would, is what is generation doing in the future? Are our generators sufficient, or should we look at what we may do as far as generation? And the other side of that coin is storage coming along enough so that we could do that? Because if we could do storage, then we could obviously set it up so that when we hit a certain peak, it dumps storage into Bryan Municipal and stuff like that. So, and that's a little more of a passive way to do it, but it'd be easier to charge the batteries at 1 or 2 in the morning than running generators till 6, 7 o'clock at night, or 6, 7 in the morning. So we're looking at those things for the future of the Bryan community, and hopefully those things will come to fruition and help it out long before costs get too high. Yes, Bob?
Jim, quick question. Probably a few years back, you spent probably $1.8 million on the generator rebuilt on County Road C.
Oh, yeah, it was before my time.
Yep, okay. Obviously, the generators are very important to this cost savings. Do we have anything planned for any generators upgrades, changes, or anything?
One of the things that I want to look at in the near future is getting an inspection and a bore scope done on them, just as a preventive measure for all that. So that's not this year in this year's, but it'll probably be added to next year's to look at that. Even though we seem to run them, 20, 25 times a year, we're still very low hours on them, and that's a great point, is making sure that our engines and everything are up to date. If we see anything, we take care of it right away.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
did I answer your question? Or?
Yeah, because obviously the generators, if they don't work, the savings we show here aren't going to happen.
No, they'll disappear in less than a year.
Yeah, quickly. So, okay. So there's a program in place to keep the generators maintenance and.
Yeah, we had them board scoped, I think it was a year or two before I came here.
Okay.
So I'm trying to keep it within the 10-year frame there somehow.
Sure.
8 to 10 years.
Thank you.
You found wooden conduit at the power plant?
Yes, where the Jordan transformer is, the
Yeah.
69 to 19,
Yeah.
where it goes to the GT1. we were digging over there trying to figure out where the conduit was. And once we got below the surface, there was a square box. And we just thought somebody left something there. But as we dug further, it went all the way back to the powerhouse.
That's probably original, isn't it? I mean, from,
Probably. And
what kind of condition was it in?
it was actually in awesome condition.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, nothing was rotted away. I mean, there was still wood there.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
basically,
That's cool.
looks like to me, they laid the cables in and they put wood over it. So that if anybody dug, they'd hit that first.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's a pretty ingenious
I
way to do
actually
it.
hit a
Good
piece of
morning.
that digging when I was putting in some drainage over there. I was just working in the plant.
Yep.
I hit that, I had no idea. What the hell's
Yeah.
that? I thought it was a casket.
Right.
You know, somebody,
That's what they had back then.
Burying people on city
Oh, we
property.
now have conduit going to the Jordan transformer and over to that little manhole that's over beside it because we had to pull new lines to GT1 for the Schweitzer stuff. Plus, we got the new transformer stuff going out, and then from the other side going out to all the breakers. Hence my apprehension of digging out there for containment or fences, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just suck it out, take the time, and yes, it may be a little more time consuming, but I can't imagine ripping through all those conduits and having to redo them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is to affect the semi-monthly disbursements, so pay the bills. May I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Dick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Next is comments from BPA staff. Jared?
Just a quick update on the solar field ag lease. We had advertised for bids on January 2nd and January 16th. We had a bid opening last week on January 30th. We had 6 bids that were submitted. The high bid was Ryan Rubel at $238 per acre, or $14,280 per year. So a slight increase from the past 3-year agreement. So other than that, I want to thank Al and Jim and their teams for all the work they do each and every year. So.
Mayor?
Just want to recognize the collaboration and express appreciation. I think all of the city utilities departments all worked well, and you can see that in their annual reports, that we're all collaborating together. So thank you. Appreciate that also from me and Mr. Schultz.
That's it. John?
Nothing else tonight?
Al? Anything more to add? Jim? Lucas? Bill? Karen?
I want to thank you, Al, and Jim, for your presentations. Very interesting. Thanks for answering my question. I wasn't aware that lines were there prior to building the homes, which makes a lot more sense to me now. So, might have been a silly question for some, but for me, I didn't move in till '93, so there was nothing there. I didn't understand lines were.
We've got a 38-year kind of path to replace cable. You know, and then when those years go by, those 40-year marks, you know, it comes up that's how we figure out what we're gonna do in the next that many years. And we try to do a couple of those projects a year to replace them. So we do have conduit, like Jim was saying, put in. So our primary cable is put in conduit. And, you know, 50 years from now, like I said, hopefully they appreciate it.
I know as a neighbor I do, because I don't see the lines up there and they're not affected by winds or any kind of storm damage either. So, and I know the protection factor that underground can offer, so I'm all for it. So, yeah, I get your plan now. Thank you very much. That's it.
Yeah, thanks, Al. Jim, good year in review. Got a lot accomplished, 24. Sounds like this year's gonna be just about as busy, so get her done, but be safe. That's all I got.
Yeah, like Dick says, good presentation, you guys, and you can tell that you've gotten a lot done over the last 12 months. It looked good. Looked good.
Our groundhog saw 6 more weeks of winter. And so I think that's gonna be something we have to watch, but it's amazing to me that they look back at 130-plus years of this forecast. I'm guessing that's probably pretty accurate, so we'll see what happens. I also live on Carson Drive, so are you gonna dig up my backyard, or should I wait before I plant my garden?
Hopefully it's directional board,
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
so.
I saw a
We'll
lot,
be in the easement.
I saw a lot of activities this summer, so that's fine, so.
Won't notice a thing, will he? Might hear his pipes rattle a little
We're not
bit.
gonna-
Yeah, well, have some fun with that, you know, so. There's a tree that I'd like to remove if possible, but that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, fellas, for the presentation. It was very nice, very informative, so thank you very much. If that is it, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting for today.
So moved.
Second,
Meeting
Dick?
adjourned.
Yes.
Karen,
yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Jim.
Yes.